Thank you for waiting and joining. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 13th Asia-Oceania Symposium Day 2. I am Toshi Kamei of Restic, MC of this symposium. Today, we have two sessions, 90 minutes for status report of AOGEO activities and another 90 minutes for special session 2, capacity development, data and knowledge sharing in the AO region during and beyond the COVID-19 era. As for logistics, I kindly ask all the participants to set your camera off and mute your microphone during the symposium. When you have any questions and comments, you can use Q&A function of Zoom webinar system. You can click Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom window, and you can type questions and comments into message window anytime. However, if you join as a panelist, you can't use this function, but you can use raise your hand function to ask for the floor. When the chair gives you the floor, you can make any comments. For speakers, kindly unmute the microphone and set the camera on by yourself. And if you have PowerPoint slides, our technicians will share and operate it for you. So let us move on to the first agenda of today's program, which is status report of AOGEO activities. This session will be chaired by two co-chairs, Dr. Yong-Seung Kim, AOGEO Coordination Board Co-Chair, Korea Aerospace Research Institute, and Professor Hiroyuki Muraoka, GIF University.
Hello, thank you for joining this session. I'm one of co-chairs for this report session. This session composed of two parts. One is for reports on the progress of task groups, which have about 16-minute duration time. And second part will be myself, and that will be about reports on the integrated product studies. So I'd like to comment for speakers. I would like you to keep your time with 5 minutes presentation time, and this session will not have enough time for the Q&A. So we'd like to have that Q&A probably just after the presentations, which means part 1 and 2. And the break is supposed to be 4:30 in Tokyo time. So we may not have enough time for the Q&A, but if you use the Q&A window, that might be chat button. And if you send any question using that chat button, and probably the TG readers will keep track on that question and try to answer through this chat mode. So please keep an eye on chat button. And also task group leader should pay attention to that chat button too in order to give proper answer for the floor's question. And let's move on to the presentation. And we have 10 task group reports this session. I will manage over task 1 to 5, and Professor Hiroyuki will go on after TG5 report up to TG10 and my session. So first speaker is from ICHAM, is Dr. Koike Toshio, and he will speak about the recent efforts carried out for the Asian Water Cycle Initiative. Please.
Thank you, co-chair. I will introduce and also report our activity, Task Group 1, Asian Water Cycle Initiative. We had this session last Friday. The totally 60 participants from the 6 countries. We discussed our new framework and also the country report. And then we discussed about the input into the statement. Firstly, we had a high-level message from the Dr. His Excellency Dr. Basuki, Minister of Public Works and Housing Indonesia, and also Dr. Renato Solidam, Undersecretary, Department of Science and Technology, DOST, Public of Philippines. There, the message is very strong and very informative to us. And we had the lecture from the Professor Kenzo Hiroki. He focused on the cultural aspect of water disaster. He mentioned our culture is the foundation of our action. And my colleague, Dr. Miyamoto, the ICHAM, introduced our past 2 sessions in Kyoto and Canberra. Based on this review, we discussed about new framework. We try to coordinate among the Sendai framework, the Sustainable Development Goal, and the Paris Agreement. We try to structuralize these 3 components by using this chart, and then how to push forward. We emphasize 2 functions. One is the online synthesis system, OSS. The other one is the facilitator. OSS, the function and facilitator, I will introduce this one at the next session, special session 2. So in detail, please wait for a while. And our colleague, Miss O, Asian Development Bank Institute, introduced our almost 1 year ago the activity, ADBI ICHAM policy dialogue. All of the representative of the AWCI joined, and we discussed about the data issue, and also the human capacity development issue, and the governance issue, and the finance issue. So she introduced our result of the policy dialogue and also the policy brief. So then we had 2 country reports. Firstly, from Sri Lanka, the 4 Director General of the various departments, water-related to the disaster department, they gave a talk, and the Director General of the Data Management Center, and also the Director General of the National Building Research Organization, and the Director General of the Irrigation Department, they made a very excellent comment and informative comment, and on our new activity, online synthesis system, and also the e-learning for the capacity building. We learned so many things from them. And also the Director General of the Department of Meteorology and the Deputy Director of the Mahabeli River Authority proposed the new framework of our step. So, and another country report from Philippines, Dr. Miyamoto, he's an HR person, but they introduced the overall framework. And Dr. Anthony Sales, the regional director of the Department of Science and Technology 11, and also the secretary of the Help Davao Network, introduced what the platform should do. And he introduced a framework of the online synthesis system and e-learning for fostering the facilitators. And three organizations of this platform, PAGASA, Hydromet Agency, DPWH, and Infrastructure Agency, and the University of Philippines, Los Baños, introduced their activity related to the Typhoon Ulysses. This is a very big typhoon, November last year. And from the hydromet and the infrastructure and the research aspect, through the coordination, they developed the integrated knowledge on the Typhoon Ulysses. Based on this input, we discussed about our input into the statement. We made 5 aspects, 5 comments to the each the topic. One is our input into agenda sustainable development. How water-related disaster and climate change hamper economic and social development, and how, in a quantitative terms, disaster resilience can contribute to maintaining sustainable development. AWCI will do. And the second one is input into the Paris Agreement. We are focusing on the climate change impact on the water-related disaster and also the adaptation countermeasure. Thirdly, to the Sendai framework, we will take concerted action in cooperation with the framework of the SDG and the Paris Agreement. And with regard to the capacity building, we will foster the facilitators as the trustable human resources by making effective use of the e-learning. And the data and knowledge, we will develop the online synthesis system in each platform. That is our input into the statement. Thank you very much for your attention. Yosuk, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I finished.
Thank you very much for your encouraging report. And due to the time limitation, I have to move on to a second speaker. And the second report will be done by Professor Hiroyuki Muraoka.
Yep.
Please.
Thank you very much, Johnson. So on behalf of Asia Pacific Biodiversity Observation Network, I'd like to share you the outcomes and what we have been discussing in the last 1 year. So now we have a new co-chairs since the last November, myself and Professor Yongget Trislat from Thailand and Dr. Luni Sylvester Punga from Malaysia. So next slide, please. So in the last 1.5 years, APBON has been discussing by confirming the past 10 years achievement by the APBON, which was established in 2009. Then we have been discussing the next strategy for toward 2030. So by focusing on the biodiversity research and monitoring, networking, and capacity building, we will continue our activities in our region. Next slide, please. So in January 22nd, we had a one-day online workshop of 12th APBON workshop. So by focusing on the networking, engagement of stakeholders of biodiversity data and knowledge, and also to learn the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, we had a variety of discussions, presentations, and some future actions to be taken. So we had 43 participants from 13 countries. So we invited five special speakers from Convention of Biodiversity, Biological Diversity on the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. And second one is from the GeoBond, Andrew Gonzalez. He is the new co-chair for GeoBond. And also we invited our colleague from ICIMOD to learn about the progress on Aichi targets in Hindu Kush Himalaya. And the fourth special speaker was from Dr. Imran Gorobu from Palau International Coral Reef Center to learn about the status of Palau's coral reefs. And then in the fourth session, we invited Dr. Andrew Plumptre from London to learn about the key biodiversity areas. And having these special presentations, we discussed how the national and regional bonds could be developed and cooperate together to respond to the needs of biodiversity data and knowledge at the national, regional, and global scale. And next slide, please. So we have three working groups in the AP bond. One is terrestrial, second, freshwater, third, marine. And for the terrestrial working group, we focus on the two topics. One is the emerging biodiversity issues under the COVID-19 pandemic. And second one is a master site plan for our observations. So this time we focus on this pandemic impacts on the biodiversity issue, because as you may share, the pandemic is a biodiversity and environmental issues. We learned from two speakers by Dr. Alice Hugh and also Dr. Mangalman Shakya, what would be the biodiversity reasons or environmental reasons that the zoonotic pandemic will be occurring. For example, increasing the contact with wildlife and livestock could be the reason, and land use change or wildlife exploitation or global trade, global transportation could be also a major causes of this zoonotic pandemic. And also we discussed about the negative and positive impacts of the pandemic. As you can see on this slide, we discussed what we have to learn due to this pandemic and what kind of action we have to take. Next slide, please. And we discussed the freshwater working group, and particularly focusing on the fish biodiversity in Thai Mekong region. By having the fish diversity observations, they learned that Thai Mekong is the hotspot of biodiversity in fishes, more than 300 species found. But land use changes and water management is the highest pressure to natural resources in Thai Mekong. Next slide, please. And finally, we had a marine working group, and they developed the APM bond, Asia Pacific Marine Bond, with cooperation with the Marine Bond of the GeoBond. They discussed about the new projects that focusing on the evaluation of marine biodiversity in coastal areas of Southeast Asia, estimating past trajectory, current status, and future forecasting. And also discussed about the capacity building, and also the impact of the COVID-19 pandemics on marine biodiversity. Next slide, please. So this is the text from the AP bond to be delivered to the AOGEO statement of this symposium. We focus on our strategic observation strategy, and also we highlighted our biodiversity and environmental issue on the zoonotic pandemic that we have been struggling in the last 1 year. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Hiroki. Let's try to have third speaker, the reports about geocarbon and Greenhouse Gas Initiative will be delivered by Professor Ishii Kazuhito of Chiba University. Please give us talk.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And so hope you can hear my voice.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
good.
clear.
Thank you. Yes. So, okay, so that, yeah, let us introduce our activities on geocarbon and greenhouse gas initiative, task group 3. And so, actually, so this task group is led by the two co-chairs. One is myself, and the other one is Professor Yi Liu from the Chinese Academy of the Science. Okay, and so can you go to the next slide? Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, and okay, so we have a very clear political importance. So clearly, so the carbon and greenhouse gas is related to climate change, and so one of the most important target is the Paris Agreement. Okay, and so this agreement, so this one is so really so request our science community to provide like a science-based evidence and so carbon or greenhouse gas budget. I mean the carbon budget, carbon balance, and also like carbon source and carbon sinks. Okay, and in the Paris Agreement, so we also have like a very big, important, like so we need to make an important contribution to a global stocktake. So this is a kind of the how to track the each countries so to catch the Paris Agreement or like so to make a temperature rise below some like something. Okay, and anyway, so each 5 years, so we need to report. Each country needs to report. So how much the greenhouse gas budget was changed, or how we can achieve the final goal of the Paris Agreement. Okay, so please go to the next slide. Okay, and so big changes, I think that in this 1 or 2 years is political transitions. So as far as I know, so many countries, I know several countries in the Asia Pacific regions, such as New Zealand, Japan, China, South Korea, so declared to make so society to make so carbon neutral in some years, like around 2050. So it is a very important actually. And in terms of the political, so because these governments declares, and I hope so other governments also follow this tendency, and so more and more importance of the greenhouse gas like a budget estimation will be expected. Next, please. Okay, and so we have a task group 3 meeting on the February 22nd, and via Zoom online. And so we have 7 different presentations and to report. So their like a status of the how to estimate the carbon or greenhouse gas budget in the different like methods. So one is so yeah, just like simply look at the title, and so some presentation covers the forest and biomass. So kind of the bottom-up approach, inventory-based approach. Okay, and so the other one is so one of the topic is so satellite-based remote sensing, satellite-based greenhouse gas observation remote sensing, such as GOSAT and TANSAT. And so using these observations, so other important thing is so we need to make some multi-scale greenhouse gas monitoring system. So integrate all of the observation into one, and to make a carbon budget or greenhouse gas budget estimations. So, okay, so we discussed, and so based on these topics, and so could you go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. Yes. So, so this is a schematic diagram of the carbon and greenhouse gas budget analysis, and so we make some conclusions. So our task group have a very clear policy target, and so we need some of the more like details analysis. So such as yearly, so we need to update yearly to meet a global topic, and also we need to monitor some sudden changes such as climate anomalies, extreme climate, and also we need urban or like a small scale greenhouse gas budget changes. That is so all of my like reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ishii. I have to make one correction. I just found that there is a button below the screen. There is specific Q&A button. So if you have any questions, leave it in that Q&A window instead of chat window. And next, we'll have a status report from Dr. Ken Ando. He will speak about ocean, coast, and island activities. Please.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Kim. My name is Ken Ando from Jamstack, Japan, and also one of colleagues of Ocean Coast Island Task Group DG4. I would like to report our progress on the coastal data issues after the workshop in China. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. First of all, I have been showing this slide for many times, but this is an important background of our activity. In the world of ocean, we have global goose and regional gooses. In the global one, there are many systems, including AOGEO, surface drifters, and the data are well shared. For the coastal goose, there are also many regional systems, and each regional system works well for the purpose. However, in terms of data sharing, they are still struggling except for few regional groups. Why? This is mainly because many national jurisdictions, exclusive economic zones. Because of this, we have been trying to share inventory data only for this region. Because of the reason I showed in a former slide. Next, please. Yeah, we have developed the data inventory portal web named Ocean Data Networking System under AOGEO. At this moment, 9 countries have contributed to provide site of data system. However, in this system, only users access to Jamstack site can go to the others, and other users access to the others, there is no way to access to Jamstack data site. So we felt necessary to improve this system. Next, please. Then we started discussion how to improve our system. This is the new configuration. Having the metadata system in each organization, user access to them can access to the other datasets. This will improve accessibility from users. Next, please. So we started construction of metadata system. And we selected using GeoNetworks open sources. The features are this run on the Windows, Linux, OS X servers, and it is very light. And also provide a powerful metadata editing searching functions. And it also supports catalog service for the web, which use XML for all responses. This open source was developed by Australia and has been used mainly in Australia. We would use this open source to AOGEO Ocean Coast and Island Tasks as a new system of data networking. In 2019, CSIRO and Jamstack developed the simple demo. Next slide, please. And in 2019, we decided to expand this system to other agencies and institutes. As you can imagine, hand-to-hand type face-to-face workshop is ideal to do this technological sharing. Although we originally planned to do this in the first half of 2020, due to the COVID-19, I have been waiting the ending of pandemic. But however, waiting, but no end will be coming to us. So I decided to have the technology exchange session by remote. We have done this on February 24th. It was just 2 to 3 hours, but we could exchange relatively higher degrees of technology than all expected. Of course, we could not achieve 100% performance in terms of technology exchanges. We felt confident that we can achieve some degrees even in remote way. This is the current status of our progress. In future, we will continue this kind of activities and get better achievement in the development of data portal in our region. So next slide, please. So finally, let me introduce a very important movement in ocean community. United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for the Sustainable Development in 2017. And since then, IOC UNESCO has started the preparation and developed its implementation plan. The implementation plan was well received by the UNGA December 31st, 2020. Now, UN Decade of Ocean has started from January 2021, this year. These 7 goals showed ocean we want after 10 years. Among these, our task will contribute to number 6, accessible ocean, and through it, we will be able to contribute to all outcomes. Next slide, please. This is a vision and mission of UN Decade of Ocean Science. These are, as you may imagine, that common to the GEO and AOGEO. Our task group will also consider how we will contribute to the UN Ocean Decade too. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Ken. Let's have the report from ISRO. Dr. Rajiv Jaiswal will present Asia Rise.
On behalf of Task Group 5 of Asia Oceania GEO, I am privileged to chair this session along with my colleague Yoshihiro Kato from University of Tokyo. I would like to report today the session which we have been conducted on February 24th to the main plenary of Asia Oceania. The TG5 of AOGEO addresses almost 5 of the SDGs, SDG 2 on zero hunger, SDG 1 on no poverty, SDG 13 on climate action, and indirectly supporting SDG 10 on reduced inequalities and SDG 15 on life on hand. So objective of Asia Rise platform in 2021 were basically to discuss the Earth observation for food security in Asia Oceania region, especially in the integrated priority study area in Mekong region. And second objective is to initiate the multilateral research network during the COVID-19 pandemic. And third objective is to integrate ongoing CEOS activities by using JAXA, ISRO, and other satellite data and algorithms on agrometeorological information and rice crop monitoring among the participants from national research and extension systems. So we had 3 sessions where 13 presentations had been done today. The participants representing different observations, platforms, and decision support systems discussed the Earth observations for regional food security in Asia and Oceania region. Once again, I would like to emphasize that Asia RISE is a multilateral alliance for SDGs, as I told earlier. Our the outcome has been divided into mainly 4 parts. The first one is the rice monitoring in Asia Oceania region during the COVID-19 pandemic, where the progress were made on the rice mapping algorithm shared among Asia RISE members, and a platform for sharing of data and tools is being established in Asia RISE, contributing to improved agriculture statistics and agriculture policy making in Ministry of Agriculture. Second one is the integration of multi-platform data and connection to in situ observations, where initial success in data integration among ISRO, GSTA, and JAXA under the AgroMed project was discussed. National rice production can be more precisely estimated with improved AgroMed information and rice crop monitoring. This has come out very well. And the regional cooperation on data and information sharing using available platforms such as ODC, Survey, and other public cloud systems, and knowledge sharing like JAF AgroMed project, UNSCAP, ADPC, ASEAN, etc. Our third outcome is it is very important to have a R&D partnership for agrometeorological information and rice monitoring. The multilateral projects are ongoing for agrometeorological information and rice monitoring, participated by ISRO, GSTA, JAXA, Japan, VNSC, and other national partners. A new framework and advanced research topics like yield estimation and forecasting, etc., for the research and development partnership are considered to strengthen the linkage among a number of bilateral projects and collaboration. So these all have been discussed today. And the important thing is the action for 2021, where the collaboration with the SIOS initiative for rice crop monitoring in Lower Mekong in 2019 and BIMSTEC region in 2020, and coordination with the SIOS 2021 chair, which is NASA, to be done. Collaboration with various stakeholders such as Ministry of Agriculture of various countries on rice statistics to be done. And the participants discussed today about the cross comparison on AgroMed, rice crop monitoring, yield estimation, and forecasting between different institutes and countries in the Asia-Oceania region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. I will hand it over to the Professor Muraoka.
Thank you, Johnson. Thank you very much. So I would like to next invite Professor Liu Jingho from China on reporting about the task group 7, environmental monitoring. So Professor Liu, the floor is yours and you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I wanted to give a brief report of the TG7 on behalf of the co-leader with Alfredo Hill from Australia. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Yes, I will give a brief introduction, and the second one is about the highlight output of EMP in 2020. And the last one is work plan. Next one, please. Next one, please. So inherent from the AOGEO TG7, EMP is to monitor the temperature, ecosystem status, air quality, and water quality by multi observation data and to develop environmental risk warning information to support the policy making. Next one, please. EMP contribute to the geo engagement priority, mainly focus on the two part. First one to support SDG. EMP directly addresses the environmental issues, including the ground healthy, clean water, affordable clean energy, sustainable city, and climate action, and life in water and life on land. So, and the EMP also support for the Paris climate agreement. As ecosystem are important for carbon sink. EMP has developed product related to ecosystem data, atmosphere, and inland water condition, and to evaluate the environmental responses and feedbacks to climate change. Next one, please. The sectorial meeting was held on February 24. There are 10 presentations from Australia, Bangladesh, and China, and more than 30 participants from TT members have involved in this workshop. And this workshop is also for the online broadcast, so there are more than 6,000 participants because we have presented some result of our research in this year. Next one, please. Next one, yes. The highlight output. The first one is EMP connected with the GeoMusic. We just want to use the multi-source synergize the quantitative remote sensing product system to support the to generate the AO environmental monitoring and validation network. So in this year, we have do some new project. Next one, please. Next one, please. Yes. In the last year, an international cooperation project from Ministry of Science and Technology of China was kicked off. In this project, the GeoMusic system will try to produce much more high spatial resolution and high temporal resolutions remote data to support the AOGEO's IPS and to support the EPM's data analysis. Next one, please. So this is a framework of the project. And the second one is the highlight output is MP linked with the GeoArc in the last year. There's really a new report has been released by the GeoArc. So we have also a close connection, the cooperation with the GeoArc. The survey report can download it from this website. So the Chinese AOGEO, so you can download the report and the related data set. Next one, please. Next one, please. Yes, this is the first one. Is changes in Antarctic ice sheet. The satellite data, the long-term series carving data set, have been used to identify the iceberg carving of the Antarctic ice shelf at the continental scale, and the Antarctic ice sheet change and the impact of on planking colonial has also analyzed in this report, and the related data set can also be downloaded from the website. Next one, please. Next one, please. And the second one is about the Korean production outlook and the state of food security. So it also have a connection with the GeoClim. So we have composed a new report to analyze the food production in 2019 and the prospect for 2020 at the global scale and for the regional scale and the for different countries. In addition, we also have evaluated the impact of the COVID-19 and the low-caster plateau drought and food, the flood on the food security in the last year. So you can also download the report and the data set from the website. Next one, please. Next one, please. And the third new report is about the global urban land composition and the expansion. So the multi-source data will processed to develop the GeoUC satellite product, the global urban and composition and expansion in 2000 to 24 were detected in this report. And we can also provide the accurate geospatial information for improving the global environmental and to support the SDG 11, sustainable city and community. So next one, please. Next one, yes. And ERP has also connected with the IPS in the last year, and the international cooperation project from the Ministry of Science and Technology has been kicked off. The project is the ecosystem monitoring and application in AO region, led by Professor Li Jing and the Alfredo Field. So in this project, we will focus on the deforestation, urban expansion, and we have some recent advances, including the camera plus and functional phenology monitoring, and some new product. Yes. So this is some to show you some new recent advances. Next one, please. Next one, please. Last one is about the work plan in this year. So we will focus on the ongoing project, research and development of ARD technology for domestic satellite to provide more product for data sharing. We also do the research on the ecosystem monitoring and application in our region to cooperate it more with the IPS for the Mekong River basin. And the GeoArc annual report in this year, there are 4 reports will be released in this year. And the TG7's activity in this year will be including in the take part in the AOGEO 2020 workshop and the training course. And the GeoArc report will be released in about October 2021. And the GeoMusic dataset release will be released in November 2021. And we will take part in the GeoWeek 2021. Yeah. That's all. Thank you very much. Next one, please. So we welcome more participants to join us. Next one, please. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu, for your informative presentations. So I would like to move on to the next report by the Task Group 8, the disaster resilience. So I would like to invite Mr. Rob Deacon from New Zealand. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good day, good morning, and good evening from New Zealand. It's a pleasure to see some familiar faces again. I'm presenting as co-chair of Task Group 8 Disaster Resilience with support from my other co-chair, Dr. Li Suju from China. The presentation will really just to be a recap on the decisions and priorities that were agreed at the Canberra meeting, which sets out the aims of our work programme, and to talk a little bit about the activities over the next 2 years. First slide, please. So when we met in Canberra, it was the first face-to-face meeting of this new task group, and we had good attendance and talked through the range of potential activities and aims that the task group could engage in. What we have agreed is that we have 4 aims in the task group that we will focus on over the next 2 years. So that is to establish links to related international or regional collaborations and work programs tackling similar issues around disaster risk reduction and Sendai framework outcomes. There is a lot happening in this space internationally. We know that over the last year, GEO has established a global disaster risk reduction working group, and it's key that our region links into the work that that group is undertaking and planning to undertake. And in turn, that has links through to CEOS and its working group disaster secretariat as well. Through groups like the UN GGIM and their disasters work group, that group are developing a new work program as well. And there are at least 2 items in that are of interest to us. One is around the implementation of the strategic framework for the supply of geospatial information and services to support disasters. And the other is the development of a regional level response exercise as well, which is likely to be focused on the Asia-Oceania region as well. And we also know that there are links through to work on the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction and their global risk assessment framework has been done there. So there's a lot happening and we need to find our place in amongst those work programs and who we can work with and what we can borrow so that we're not reinventing wheels. And then from that, what we can bring back to our region. So establishing those links is very important in this foundation phase. Other key things for us are to raise awareness of existing available Earth observation support services to support disaster management, of which we know there are a number of key providers out there internationally and regionally, and to be able to make our region aware of those services, and then to facilitate the use of those satellite-based emergency mapping services for major disasters is key for us. And then also to think about the reporting requirements through the Sendai framework and how we can use Earth observation data to support that Sendai reporting across the region. So next slide, please. So our 2-year work program for the next 2 years really focuses on, the first year really focusing on those international collaborations and building on existing services. So mapping those linkages to other related initiatives and finding where we can work with them. Also to improve the access to existing Earth observation services to better support response and recovery, including the use of the International Charter. And also developing Earth observation guidelines to support Sendai framework reporting. So that will be the focus for the first year. And then we have assessed those existing initiatives and our place within them. We can start to think about how we develop some of those initiatives in the region. So we're thinking year 2 will be to provide focus on support for small island developing states within the AOGEO region, and then looking at potential pilot studies that could account for Asia-Oceania regionally specific multi-hazard characteristics, and then looking at some of the IPS studies and the opportunities within those. So that's a very short summary of what we're planning to do and where we are at the moment. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rolf, for your informative and also a very clear presentation about the issue that your group is going to address, and also very clear work program. Thank you very much. So next, I'd like to invite Task Group 9, Himalayan Geos. So Mr. Virendra from ICIMOD. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'm Virendra Bajrachari. From ICIMOD and reporting on the Task Group 9 Himalayan Geos. We had our sectoral meeting on 22nd February about this progress update, as well as also the consultation on the upcoming work plan. We had about 30 participants in that meeting, and we had a presentation from the Survey Department of Nepal. Then we had a presentation from Professor Jiang Zhao on the capacity building from ERCAS. We also had a presentation on the initiative called Geospatial Knowledge Infrastructure, which ICIMOD is also a part in terms of promoting geospatial and Earth observation information and knowledge sharing among our member countries. Then we also had discussion on our contribution to the AOGEO Symposium inputs, as well as also the SDG that we'll be contributing. Next slide, please. So I'll be quickly updating about our activities and also the impact we had due to COVID and how we are trying to work on this. Next slide, please. So just to give you a overview, we are working on the Hindu Kush and Himalaya mountains, which covers 8 countries, and we are targeting in this area, mainly focusing on various aspects of natural as well as human dimensions in this region. Next slide, please. So initially we started Himalayan Geos as a community activity, and then in Canberra meeting in 2019, our work plan has been now merged with the AOGEO, and now been a task group since then. And also we have been a very good collaboration with other groups, and we are hosted at mode. Next slide. So our activities has been mainly focusing on mainly bringing the SDGs countries together. Only 4 out of 8 countries are a member of GEOs, and we also are trying to promote for other countries to be member states of GEO, participating in GEO, as well as also trying to see how we can really align the national priorities and needs in terms of authorization and geospatial solutions. And our main focus has been on the capacity building as well as on developing the platforms, regional platforms for this GIS and authorization data sharing. But the important part in our region is to promote the regional cooperation among different countries so that we can benefit from each other's initiatives. Next slide, please. So one of the major contributors to our activity has been the Surveyed SDGs initiative, which I am also leading at AC mode. Based on this Surveyed SDGs activities, we are focusing on 4 major areas: agriculture and food security, weather and climate services, land use, land cover and ecosystem, and water and related disaster. So in this way, we are quite cross-cutting with many other initiatives, both within GEO as well as other authorization community. And we have also now made operational using the Amazon Web Services cloud grants that we received from GEO, mainly on the regional drought monitoring system, which is operational, and it looks into the whole SKS region, as well as we are also developing country-specific drought monitoring activities for Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. Similarly, on agriculture, on land cover monitoring, crop mapping, we have also developed a number of monitoring systems using Google Earth Engine platform so that we can have more frequent updates on land cover, as well as also we can have more precise crop mapping applications in our region, which we are promoting both through a surveyed SDGs as well as through the GEO platform. And in capacity building, even during the pandemic, we had a good collaboration with AirCast in terms of getting a regional capacity building event. So we're also exploring our linkages with GeoBlues, GFOI, and Geo Mountains, GeoGenome, which also has quite a similar mandate in terms of looking into mountain environments. Next slide, please. Sorry for the cough. So the ongoing activities, an update on this one is that we are now planning to come up with a community portal and also looking into the similar portals that are present. We don't want to also have too much of duplications, but on the same way, we are also looking into what could be the similarities and synergies with other portals like ECMOD's RDS. Similarly, we are also looking into the collaborative proposals on capacity building, whether we can have a kind of regional capacity building center or ECMOD and Himalayan Geo as a center for that. Also exploring the survey SKS services. The most important part is ECMOD has come up with SKS call to action, mainly looking into the climate change aspects. And the task call to action number 6, digital data and information sharing and science and knowledge cooperation, is very relevant to what we are trying to do under Himalayan Geo. And that's where we also think our future activities will be focusing on. Next slide, please. So just a quick update on the IPS that we are undertaking in the Eastern Himalayas. Our main focus was on the ecosystem and biodiversity, as well as also trying to build methodologies using the data sets available through this IPS collaboration. somehow due to the COVID, right after we started initiate this activity, due to COVID, we haven't been able to do much analysis on this because we're all working from home and access to computing facilities to our colleagues and all those who are quite limited to do image analysis and so on. So far we have been working on compiling the data and also on the working methodologies. So this has been one of the impacts due to COVID where we have been delayed. But again, we are hoping that this year we'll be trying to complete this study. And also with AOGEO, our CMRD, we are exploring the possibilities of Open Data Cube. And with today's presentation, I also understand that there's going to be a new modality in terms of the data cubes where the implementation might be more practically feasible. So we hope that in the coming days, we can have more rigorous engagement with Himalayan Geo and also fostering capacity building and regional cooperation. With this, I would like to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virendra, for your informative presentations. As you mentioned, Himalaya is one of the IPS areas, so your information could be very much useful for the AOGEO community as a whole. Thank you very much. Then finally, for the task group report, I would like to invite task group 10, Professor Li Guoqing from AirCAS, China. So Guoqing, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, session chairs. I'd like to report the update of data sharing task group to all of my colleagues. Please, next slide. Please, next slide. Okay, thank you. I will, as a present, is a three. The main part of the update. The first is the new data resource for data sharing. The main task is to try to collaborate much more data resource for the users in Asian area regions. In last year, there is a two achievement. The first is the partners is the firm is a Jilin company, Jilin satellite company, and they have agreed to provide the broadband data site. The name is GLS 5 meter. It means that they will provide 5 meters with 20 bands. And totally, this data sets will cover more than 20,000 skins. Geologically, they can cover almost all the Asian area and Africa area. And this data will be available from the end of 2021. And this data site will be applied the geo data sharing principle and provided to AOGEO and other geo activities. Next slide, thank you. The another resource is the new resource is from Orbit. The Orbit company, they will provide the Orbit is high spectrum is OHS. OHS is 01, the constellation. This data size is mainly focused on the highest resolution. The hyperspectral is a data. The data will reach to is 32. The bands and actually they can provide more than 200. However, it's a downlink that will reduce to is 32, and the spatial resolution can reach to is 10 meters. So all the archived data has been opened on behalf of China Geo to the user around the world. The more data will be updated every year. So I think these two data resources should be very useful. They can provide more than 4 bands, and the resolution have reduced to the 5 to 10 meters, and also with a global and the continental coverage. So I think it's a good news for AOGEO, and we are also based on this work. We are cooperating with other high spectral data providers, and will launch international cooperation, and they can respond to some is a big project and provide a free data. Next slide, thank you. The second part is about how this task group can respond to the COVID-19. I give an example. For China Geo, China Geo coordinate a lot of more than 20 key cases. From lots of the Chinese institute make a response to COVID-19, and about 20 satellites have been applied to capture the data to Wuhan and other suffered is a city, and all the data have been provided to the community for research study. UN Escape also have organized a lot of activities such as the workshop and the webinars, and to discuss how space technology plays contributed to combating COVID-19, and China Geo, and also some of our members have contributed to this dialogue. Next slide, thank you. We also have the partner from Thailand GISLA, and they have built up IMAP, the service for the government to make a decision on COVID-19. They can combine the observation data, something like the light data, and also GIS data, and social media data, and also statistic data. And they can it's very powerful tools. And in Indonesia partners, they also have set up a Lapan hub. The Lapan hub also is a very the combine a lot of data resource based on GIS, and they can serve it for public and also for the government. And it's a very important. I have to say they have the Lapan have cooperated with Escape and published a lot of the guidebook and help the communities learn how to respond to COVID-19. Okay, next. Thank you. The third part is some activities based on data sharing. It's a very important one is disaster response. For our task group we based on the China Geo disaster data response mechanism we named the CDDR. We are doing a lot of the work. This work not only by China but also by New Zealand, by Japan, all the partners working together. Last year, a lot of activities have been taken for Iran flood and for Uzbekistan's dam collapse, and also for Beirut port blast. The CDR can coordinate more than 20 commercial satellites, provided is a meter or is a meter levels data to the country, and help the disaster communities to get the much quick and faster response on data capture after the events. Next. In China, last year, the summer flood is very serious, and so we also respond to it. A special is a portal have been configured within 1 week. They can provide a lot of geological fundamental data set, and also the hundreds of the post events and also pre-events, the imagery data, not only optical but also the radar. All the data have been processed and easy to be used. We also collect the flood risk information from different layers of the country, and make integration them, and to be integrated is a daily flood risk map. And this work have is a server for more than 115 research teams to work on this summer flood. Please, next.
Gojin, sorry, would you wrap up?
Yeah, it's a well be at the end. In last is a geoplanary, and start to work is as the main part of our core data is a rapid disaster is a mapping. However, is on the geo SDG is the world as the next. In the end of last month is the 23rd. We also have the task group meetings. There is 12 reports and 12 results have been taken, and that is more than 28 is audience is taking side. Please, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, audience.
Thank you very much, Gojin, for your presentations. So finally, I would like to invite Dr. Yeonsun Kim from Korea to present about the AOGEO Integrated Priority Studies. So he is the AOGEO Coordination Board co-chair to lead this project. So Yeonsun, please.
Thank you, Dorothy. I'm Yeonsun Kim from Korea. I'd like to report the current status of integrated priority studies today. First, I will present some introductory slides regarding our activities, and then explain the ongoing specific activities of ODC implementation. Next, please. AOGEO prepared the implementation plans for 2020 to 2022 in association with global geo activities. It aims to handle the environmental changes occurred in AO region. For this, we need to set up the integrated, shareable, and sustainable EO system, which allows us to analyze EO data and to support proper decision makings on these environmental challenges. Our planned activities include 3 types. Next, please. These activities breakdown of 3 types is where captured this chart. IPS covers 3 regions: Mekong River Basin, Pacific Island, Himalaya Mountains, and 9 task groups are allocated for applications and services, and 3 task groups take care of foundational tasks, including data sharing. Next, please. This slide shows some of background of initiation of this IPS concept. Discussion on IPS actually began at informal co-chairs launch meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2017, and has been reported pilot study at the 44th GeoXCon. And September 2019, we released call for proposals over 3 regions. And November 2019, Geo Work Program approved at Geo 16 plenary. Next, please. The purpose and scope of IPS is to identify and incubate evidence-based tools, services, and solutions which will eventually support decision makings on the environmental challenges, and is to apply data from both satellite and in situ measurements to monitor environmental challenges over the Mekong River Basin, Pacific Island, and Himalayan mountains. Obviously, topics of these studies should align with GEO's 3 policy priorities: the SDG and climate change, and Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Next, please. I don't think I have to iterate the detailed characteristics of environmental changes over 3 IPS areas because they are somewhat well known. And just for example, MRB region may tackle rainfall and flood issues. Next, please. And Himalayan mountains tackle with water resources and natural disasters like landslides that we have experienced in the last months, I guess. And next, please. And Pacific Islands may have diverse issues, and they tackle sea level rise, disasters, food security, and water issues, and so on. Next, please. The IPS first call for proposals was released in September 2019. But we didn't perform well because of some issues of data, particularly data policy and data system. I mean, ODC data systems of each individual provider. And we wish to have second call for proposals soon with improved data service scheme. We welcome all proposals from AOGEO member countries. Next, please. This slide shows you that the collection of AOGEO data inventory for last IPS corporate paper time frame. And IPS data list here provide from Australia, China, Japan, and Korea. Type of data is supposed to be analysis-ready data, that is ARD, but we need to think about other types of data requested by users, like standard products of level 1. Next, please. We had discussed about these issues of data sharing, the ODC, particularly ODC implementation, whether we have to install one place and operate that one single site for all the users' request. But we have some financial issues, and recently we have changed that operation paradigm from originally concept of operate by the ODC in Geoscience of Australia to the current picture on the right, which is the 4 individual ODC system run by each core country, Australia, Japan, China, and Korea. So we are developing this prototype of ODC in each country except Australia. Next, please. The following view graphs is about the current status of each country, 4 countries, I mean. I think Australia is well equipped with the ODC system, and they are operating for their practical day-by-day operation purpose. Next, please. And this slide shows you that the overall concept current use of the ODC, and it's about water body mapping and monitoring. And David sent me a file that this several images. The first one shows entire region of Australia, which includes some highlighted water bodies. And they were able to identify 300,000, over 300,000 water bodies across Australia. Next, please. And actually he sent me the video file, but for technical problems, I'm sorry, we cannot show in video file. So just shows you the still images. And for specific area, the same as the one we saw entire Australia, we their system allows to detect the water body over a specific area. Next, and even helps to estimate the amount of irrigated cropping. And also they can monitor the variation of water contents over a certain area. Okay, let's move on to the status ODC in China. It's given by Dr. Guocheng Li. Next, please. China Data Cube, CDC, is based on ODC and operated by LADI and COS. And it's based on G-Cloud, which is cloud platform. And CDC allows to access to satellite data and multiple data sets, and allows to use of analysis ready data. And next, please. And Chinese data cube contains the Chinese Earth observation data like Gaopeng 1 and JLS. Most of China supports China geo activities and thus ODC research activities. Next, please. They provide these lessons learned. There is no operational seat ODC in China currently, even there are some prototypes. ODC is an operational solution, but other DGGS cube system also needs to be studied. The technical support and training of ODC should be provided within AOGEO. ODC should be compatible with more data resources, either open access or limited access data. It is still not clear how to connect ODC in different countries and how to allow interoperation within different countries ODC for an end user. This is the end of the China status report. And let's move on to Japan. And was given by Dr. Kanando and Fumiko Akazawa of Jamstack. Next, please. Following two slides illustrate Japanese dataset listed in IPS dataset inventory as shown in our earlier chart. Number 7, the tells us CO2 flux data, and number 9 of inventory explains about global pulsar 2, pulsar JRS1, forest, non-forest map. And next, please. And number 10, radar output, pulsar and pulsar JRS ARD mosaics. Next, please. The can provide this summary, and number 7, number 9, and number 10 of inventory list were collected. Only number 10 was confirmed to be indexed to the local small IPS ODC system. The local small system is supported by Mozilla of MacBook Pro. So there are many small barriers such as lack of memory. The demonstration on the local PC is available for number 10 datasets. Number 7 and number 9 are needed further works to index to the local IPS ODC system. But soon we can solve. In the future, the demonstration system for number 10 will be translocated to a little bigger system. Then we'll try to open from this system. The last slides are from Japan. Next, please. This figure shows an example of ALOS data implemented on the ODC. Personally, I hope that Japanese ODC system soon incorporate the ALOS data. Next, please. And the last status report from my side. And it was originally developed and prepared by Professor Kyun Lee of Hansung University. Next, please. We have developed this small system in 2019 through the project carried out by Professor Kyun Lee. And for the ODC implementation, we may take 3 steps. As you show in this figure, the top 3 boxes, that's the first step, ODC installation and setting phase. And second one is the shaded area, the ingestion step that includes data definition, data indexing, and data ingestion step. And the last step, we are able to produce ARD. Next, please. And this illustrates that the small systems installed in our Kari, inside the Kari at the moment, and hope to expand into the bigger system with open accessibility in the near future. Next, please. With the current small system, we are able to test for high-resolution concept 3 and 3A data over Mekong Delta areas. Next, please. And furthermore, we can derive NDVI images, which is one of ARD products for our end users. We used an open source toolbox for this extraction of NDVI information. I think I will summarize in this view graph. For the period of 2020 to 2022, AOGEO will carry out the following activities, 3 activities, as I mentioned. And options on the IPS data system have been discussed to support AOGEO community services. To alleviate the financial burden of operation, it was suggested that each co-lead country should individually set up and operate the common ODC system on an open source-based cloud platform. For co-lead countries, except Australia, have tried to implement the prototype of ODC system. However, to serve the user community adequately, more efforts should be made to complete the operation system while resolving the issues such as open accessibility and systematic coordination among 4 systems. We expect to have more practical discussion on current issues in the forthcoming AOGEO workshop. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Johnson, for reviewing the status of IPS and also showing some future directions that this IPS team and AOGEO community could be further try to move on. So I understand that IPS is aimed at demonstrating the collaboration of the AOGEO community. So this might be a very good platform to work with. So in the interest of time, I'm afraid that unfortunately, we don't have enough time for questions and answers, but I would like to take one question if the participants, the panelists or the audience would like to ask to particular task group or IPS. So one question from Japan ILTL. This is the questions to task group 9. Is there any opportunity for early career researchers to contribute AOGEO task group 9? So Bilendra, if you have any answer, please try.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely we have a number of programs where we also collaborate with universities as well as also collaborate with for internships and others. So there could be opportunities. I will be interested to hear from you if you have any concepts or any ideas about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So Amit, later I think I can support you to try to communicate with Bilendra. So with that, in the interest of time, I'd like to close this session of the AOGEO task group and IPS reportings. And again, I appreciate all the speakers and participants to have this session in a successful way. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim and Professor Muraoka. Thank you for very nice sharing, even the very limited time. So now we have about 25 minutes break until 5 p.m. in Japan time. After the break, special session 2 will follow. The session will start in 5 p.m. in Japan time, so please make sure the start time in your time zone and come back. So see you again in 25 minutes. Thank you for coming back. It's time to resume AOGEO Symposium. Next agenda is special session 2, capacity development, data and knowledge sharing in the AO region during and beyond the COVID-19 era. This session will be chaired by 2 co-chairs as well. Before I invite co-chairs, once again, if you have any comments or questions, you can send text message through Q&A function of Zoom webinar system, or you can use raise your hand function to ask for the floor. So let me invite co-chairs. Please welcome Dr. Zhou Shan, Aerospace Information Research Institute, Chinese Academy of Science, and Dr. Akiyuki Kawasaki, Project Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, the University of Tokyo.
Thank you, host. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, welcome to our special session 2, Capacity Development, Data and Knowledge Sharing in Asia-Oceania Range during and beyond the COVID-19 era. So this afternoon, I'm very glad to co-chair this session with Professor Kawasaki and share the ideas on the issue about capacity building, data sharing, knowledge sharing with Professor Koki Toshio, Mr. Brenda Bhattacharya, Professor Xinfa Gu, and all the participants. So as we know, our world is facing severe challenging and also attractive opportunity in next decade. So everybody knows COVID-19 is still dominating the global headlines. So meanwhile, the research of sustainable development has become an important issue, and many countries and organizations have been paid more attention to this issue for a long time, which we have talked quite a lot yesterday. So the concerns on the utilization of natural resource, environmental protection, and also response to natural disaster, etc., have created a critical need for capacity to acquire, manage, analysis, apply, and evaluate the Earth's environmental information, especially for developing countries. So many developing countries in the world has been aware of importance of Earth observation, big data, and are actively promoting innovation and application of EU technologies. So in past year, with strong support of international community like GEO, like CELS, UNESCAP, UNEP, and other organizations, so AOGEO has successfully held a series of international training courses in Nepal, Laos, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, China, and other countries. So this capacity building activity adopt a combination of theory, discussion, and hands-on practice to enhance the trainees' awareness of satellite remote sensing data processing and information extraction, also multi-field application. So we have a lot of scholars and experts from Australia, China, Japan, Korea, Nepal, and other different countries and the international organization contribute a lot to finish this training course, and their effort was spoken highly of. So I think the main purpose of capacity development and knowledge sharing is to promote capability in applying Earth observation technology to respond many common challenges in our AO range, such as environmental change, food security, water resource management, like Professor Toshio will present later, and major disasters. We try to enhance cooperation and exchange among the different countries in application and information analysis. So the AO range do need more such kind of collaboration to bridge the traditional gap between the data and the knowledge. So we hope this activity on the capacity building or capacity development and knowledge sharing helps the young scientists and professional from different country to gain the deep understanding of importance of EO data, technology, and the information knowledge, especially on the cross-domain scientific research and regional sustainable development, which will lay a foundation for establishing the long-term international exchange and deepen cooperation within the country and organization in this range. So I think the special session 2 is a good opportunity to address the concern on the capacity development and knowledge sharing and pursue collaborative solution for AO range. I think today our panel is scheduled as follow. First, we have 3 invited speakers to present their thinking on capacity development and knowledge sharing. That's title of our special session 2, best practice and lessons learned under the COVID-19. Then follow the open discussion, which will be chaired by my colleague, Professor Kawasaki. So I think I speak quite a lot about our session information. Now let's move on. So our first speaker is Professor Koki Toshu, Director of the International Center for Water Hazard and Risk Management under the auspices of UNESCO. Toshu also Professor of Emeritus of University of Tokyo and a Council member of Japan Science Council, Cabinet Officer. As we all know, Toshu also was former co-lead of AOGEO from Japan. He made a great contribution to developing AOGEO, and I think he will have quite a lot to talk about capacity development and knowledge sharing. Okay, Professor Koki Toshu, you have floor, please.
Okay, thank you, Doshan, your kind introduction to me. I would emphasize the importance of the strengthening the water-related disaster resilience and enabling sustainable development under climate change. 3 key words: disaster resilience, sustainable development, climate change. So firstly, I would like to introduce recent change in natural disasters worldwide. The number of geophysical events, such as earthquake and tsunami, have not changed so much. Why? The number of water-related disasters, such as floods, cyclone and droughts, have been increasingly very rapidly by more than 3 times since 1980. The overall economic losses are also rapidly increasing. The almost half of the events are reported to occur in high and the upper middle or income countries. And more than 3/4 of economic losses are accounted for in these countries. In contrast, more than 80% of the human losses occurred in the lower middle or low income countries. And with regard to the economic losses relative to GDP, by climate-related disaster from the 1998 and to 2017, you can understand very large number of the economic losses relative to GDP occurred in low or lower middle income countries. So that's why we need to consider the sustainable development and the disasters under climate change. We have 17 SDGs. So some of them are closely related to quality of life, including poverty, health, education, and work. These quality of life are supported directly by water, food, energy nexus. And our environment consists of natural and artificial components. So several SDGs are closely related to natural environment, and several one are the artificial environment. They are closely related to, of course, quality of life and water, food, energy nexus. And at the end, social system, including the gender, the inequality, and the peace, are closely related to other components. So we need to consider this structure of SDGs and our target, water-related disaster under climate change occurs, or what kind of the negative impact in this framework. So climate change, the intensified water-related disaster, its direct impact on the built environment and natural environment, and of course, the water-related matter are damaged. But based on these damage, our water, food, energy nexus are affected, and then quality of life is degraded. Those negative impacts propagate to social system. So in this way, the climate change and the water-related disaster and each sustainable development goal are closely related together. We need to understand this mechanism, and also the quantify the impact from one the goal or one target to another. So in this way, we need to clarify the interlinkage. And as we know, climate system and the water cycle are closely related together. And due to the climate change, the water-related disaster is intensified. That's why we need to take action for disaster risk reduction to adapt the change. At the same time, we also need to develop the economics and also the social system. And then the disaster resilience toward the Sendai framework, and sustainable development toward SDGs, and also the Paris Agreement. These three are closely related, and we need to take a concerted action to address these three global key agendas. So GEO identified this framework very clearly. So we have a data, satellite data, GIS, and some COVID-19 data. But we identify some gap between our scientific knowledge among the different disciplines, and also our scientific science community and expert community, the knowledge and knowledge of society and the on-site stakeholder. How to fill the gap? You know, we need to cover so many things, and we need to address the interlinkage. So beyond the discipline and beyond the gap between the science community and society. So that's why we need some synthesis system in online basis. Its function, they request the exploration, collection, archive, and the search of the scientific information in their mother tongue, not only in English, Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian language, Myanmar language. So that is very important. And prediction and simulation and visualization and the data integration and information fusion, various data and information should be integrated, and the fusion, the activity fusion function is very important. And to coordinate the various disciplines is essential. And one of the most important points to encourage the mutual risk communication between society and science community. So this information can support the integration of the knowledge, that is so-called consilience, by providing the information. And next, how can the science community fill the gap between the society and the science community? So we recognize recognize the needs of some catalytic beings. So we usually say the facilitator is a master of ceremony, but not just as a master of ceremony, but as a catalytic being who can establish a trust-based relationship with society, who can suggest a problem structure, set the goal, and also provide the idea on the governance structure and the possible solution, and they make sense. So this kind of the function, then with this kind of the function, then we can pass the scientific knowledge to society, and we can expect the response from the society. So then the more integrated knowledge can provide to the system, and fresh learning by the integrated scientific knowledge could be offered to the society. So this kind of the framework should be established for addressing these three key goals. So our Japan has been making an effort for developing this kind of the system since the 2006, just after the establishment of the GEO, that is a DIAS. So based on the function of the DIAS, we need to develop this kind of the framework. So under the international the coordination mechanism led by the United Nations organization, including the UNESCO, WMO, the United Nations University. Former name is UNISDR, current name is UNDRR, and international science community established the IFI, International Flood Initiative. So based on the discussion, in this group, we developed a new idea that is a platform on water resilience and disaster. Based on the integrated data set, we can implement the integrated risk assessment and the change in society, and also the change in the climate system. And we can identify the change and monitor and predict the change. And then we can provide usable information for policy making and the community of practice. For that purpose, we need to archive the data, and based on the data integrated data set, we can develop models for prediction, monitoring, and identification, and then we can provide usable information for societal benefit. So in this case, the interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary framework could be developed. Of course, capacity building is really essential. So for that purpose, we can deploy, incorporate the function of the DS for integration of the data and develop integrated model and share the information and knowledge with society. So this is a platform of water resilience and disaster framework. The United Nations Secretary General and World Bank President established a high-level panel on water by inviting 11 heads of the countries and one special advisor. The outcome document, so-called "Making Every Drop Count." In this high-level document, the resilient economy and the society and disaster risk reduction are clearly identified. In this document, we are very happy. The platform on water resilience and disaster is the focus, and this platform among all stakeholders should be formulated in countries to facilitate dialogue and scale up community-based practice. So this is really encouraging the sentence in this high-level document. So based on this framework in several countries in Asia, we established this platform. In Philippines, this platform is co-chaired by Undersecretary, Department of Public Works and Highway, DPWH, and Undersecretary, Department of Science and Technology, DOST. And also include the 25 national scale organization, including the 3 universities established this platform. As I introduced in the first session today, the Philippine platform established its implementation plan by integrating the data and then develop the function of the flood the forecasting and early warning, climate change impact assessment, economic assessment, agricultural productivity. Not only the water, but also the food and also economy. And this information is passed to the investment, the direction, policy making, decision making, local practice. To realize this framework, our colleagues in Davao, the region director of the Department of Science and Technology, introduced this framework. So based on the real-time flood monitoring and forecasting system on DIAS and the climate change impact assessment system in DIAS, they are now making a design of the e-learning system, which includes the the 9 introductory lecture and 5 hands-on training for fostering the facilitator, to fill the gap between the science community and society. And in this morning, not morning, in the first session, I also introduced the coordinated action responding to the Typhoon Ulysses. The infrastructure, the Hydromet Agency, PAGASA, Infrastructure Department, DPWH, and the University of Philippines cooperate together and develop a consilience in this frame. I think this is one of the good examples of the capacity sharing and capacity the capacity sharing through the data. In Myanmar, your co-chair, one of co-chair, the Professor Kawasaki, led the platform in Myanmar, and platform member is for the department, the governmental department, disaster management, hydromet, and water utilization, irrigation, and also the water resources and the improvement river system, and one university. So we are doing the training at the university by inviting the officials of the governmental department, and Professor Kawasaki developed their online synthesis system focusing on the near real-time hydromet data archiving and duration analysis and flood forecasting. This is now being used in operation. The flood, in the case of the flood 2019, it was used, and based on this information, the government of Myanmar decided their action, and it was broadcasted by national TV program. So, in case of the Sri Lanka, very unfortunately, during the planning phase, very serious flood happened in May 2017. Within 2 weeks, we, based on the DIAS, we developed this flood forecasting system for supporting the recovery process. Then totally the 6 organizations, Irrigation Department, Disaster Management Center, Meteorological Department, the National Building Research Organization, Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development, and Mahabeli Authority. This is the biggest river and the most important river basin in Sri Lanka. So it was established, and we also provided the opportunity for training on climate change impact assessment. And as I mentioned, the last week seminar, last week session of the AOGEO, 4 DG and the deputy director introduced the needs of the online synthesis system and facilitator. So we are now moving forward. In case of the Indonesia, so based on the discussion among the 5 governmental ministry and agencies, the public works, the disaster management, hydromet, and the environment and forestry and agriculture. We established this national platform and also the local platform focusing on one river base, solo river base in Java Island. And we made a design of the implementation plan for platform activity. And we had a stakeholder workshop just before the COVID-19. And under the COVID-19, we are now making a design of the e-learning system very similar to the case of the Philippines. So in this way, we are now moving forward. So this is our activity in the Asian Oceania region. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Thank you, Toshio. I think water issues is growing concern globally. So the work on the DS platform on water resilience and disaster highly align with GEO3 priority. Okay, so thank you for your presentation, Professor Koki. Let's go ahead to our next speaker. The speaker is Mr. Birenda Bihachaya, the program coordinator from International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICIMOD. And ICIMOD leads Himalaya GEOs in AOGEO and make a lot of capacity building efforts on sustainability and disaster resilience in Hindu Kush Himalaya. So let's welcome Mr. Brenda. Brenda, you have the floor, please.
So I internet at the moment. Therefore, I'm not on camera. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, but not very clear. I think we lost again. Brenda, are you speaking something or not? Because we can't hear you.
No, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, my internet is very bad and I'm not turning on my camera.
Okay, I think it's okay. Please.
I hope that is fine. Yeah. So thank you. I'm Birendra Bajrachari, coordinator for Survey Himalaya at ICIMOD. And today I'll be presenting on our experiences on capacity building efforts in our region. Next slide, please. As Professor Koike has already set the context on why do we need the capacity building as well as the broader linkages with SDGs as well as the geo priorities. I think capacity building is a very important aspect to make sure that the available data sets, the available efforts on space technologies, as also the IT technologies is very important to really benefit from the ongoing scientific and technological advancements. And we see that Earth observation data and GIT can bring critical support of information knowledge that is required to address many challenges that we face in our region. And we see that there's a large capacity gap in this field because this field is very fast emerging. As we see in the last few years, we can see the rapid development in cloud computing, in machine learning algorithms for image processing. These have really brought in a new paradigm in the way that we work with GIS, remote sensing, and a lot of these other technologies. And therefore, what we felt is that we need to have a strategic and systematic capacity building pathways so that we can strengthen the capacity of not only individuals, but the institutions, so that the longer term sustainability can be achieved in our efforts. And with this same thing in mind, Survey SKS at Menris within EC mode is working to bridge these gaps, mainly with a motto connecting space to village. Our main idea is how can we can really benefit from Earth observation technologies, information and knowledge to really reach out to the communities. Next slide, please. So we thought that the capacity building should need a very structured approach. We do a lot of trainings, mainly on the tools, mainly on the software, and then we try to see that these are the activities that we have done for capacity building. But again, to really have a longer term and sustainable impacts, we came up with this framework. Of course, it is a very simple framework, which is applicable to many other areas as well. We start with the needs assessment because we see that different agencies, different countries have different needs. Context is different. And this needs assessment is very important to see where we need to make an effort and where we need to fill the gaps. Then the second part is on the design. Based on those needs identified, then we start designing our training modalities, whether we do the structured trainings or whether we do the awareness campaigns. So this kind of design is based on the needs that we identify from the first step. And the next step really is the implementation, how we really implement. So we also need to make sure that while we implement, our needs and our design are properly aligned while we implement our plans in terms of capacity building. And finally, the often forgotten part is monitoring. We also need to keep on tracking how successful has been our efforts and whether the people we train or whether the institutions we have built the capacities are really using it after maybe 2 years or 5 years time. This type of monitoring also becomes very important to learn from our own mistakes as well as to how we can improve as we move along in this effort. Next slide, please. So ultimately, our effort is we want to build the capacity, ultimately to create an impact in the society. So in the capacity building, we try to see in two aspects. One is on the individual level, knowledge, understanding is business, as well as they have competence in new technology. And then also the experience and technical skills will ultimately help them to manage their work, so give them more opportunities. At the same time, in the institutional level, we also try to see the human resources are in place. Often we see that we train people and then they are immediately transferred to other departments, which makes our effort useless in the longer run. Similarly, after we train the human resources, whether they have the facilities, the infrastructure for them to utilize their skills. This is also a very important aspect on infrastructure. And the network. So the institutions also need to see that they are in good network with other similar agencies so that they can benefit from each other's initiatives. And finally, the policies are also very important so that they have produce better results in terms of better utilizing their information and the services that they produce. And finally, we would like to see that are received in terms of innovative applications, enhancing the efficiency in the way that decisions are made, and finally, effectiveness with the strategic environment and change of practices. So these is that we get from all these different institutions which are mandated to provide their mandated services. An important part is how we can upscale as well as outscale these capacity building activities in terms of transforming the change as well as transforming the way they do the service delivery. Next slide, please. So this is an example of our needs assessment, which we carried out in different countries, like in Afghanistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan. And what we saw is our main focus were in 4 thematic areas: agriculture and food security, water resources and hydroclimatic disasters, land use, land cover, weather and climate. And also there were cross-cutting areas which are equally important, mainly on GIT as well as on the cloud computing, these kind of new technologies. So we found that the country priorities were sometimes different. And also sometimes we see that the different countries have similar kind of gaps, but in the context are different, which require different kind of approach based on the country's specific bureaucratic setup. So which will be of interest to our member countries. Next slide, please. So after we do the needs assessment, then we start designing our content. So in these 4 thematic areas, as well as in the cross-cutting areas, we try to look into the type of capacity building. Then we also designed the models based on the type of the trainings. We define different modules, and then basic materials, as we all know, will be PowerPoint for instructions, but manuals, specifically prepared manuals, and some tutorials, which will be very important also to bring the context of the country. For example, in this drought monitoring training, when you do the training for Nepal, we try to bring in the examples from Nepal, also data from Nepal, so that participants are aware of what they're working on, and they will also have a better understanding of what the context of their work. Similarly, when you go to other country, then we try to, the theoretical background will be same, but we try to replace the hands-on with the country-specific data. Next slide, please. Then finally, in the implementation part, we also design the courses or the trainings in different ways. We do the regional trainings where we invite people from different countries at one place. And this also gives an opportunity for cross-learning from different countries' context. For example, when we are doing a training on disaster, then we bring the disaster-related agencies from our member countries like in Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, and all those. And then we work on the common problem, but again, there's also good learning experience. Just apart from the course that we provide during these courses that we organize, there is much more learning from each other's experience. And also, this helps to create good networks among the professionals in these countries, which ultimately will help in fostering the regional cooperation. So this kind of professional linkages has helped a lot within our network. We see that the people from different countries are communicating, sharing their exchanging their knowledges, as well as if there's any problem, reaching out to each other. So these kind of regional trainings are very helpful in terms of not only imparting the skills and knowledge, but also building networks and partnerships. Then we have the national trainings where we bring in, we go to those countries and try to include more and more people from that country. When you do the regional training, since we have to invite them to a country, sometimes logistically that becomes quite expensive, as well as sometimes we cannot go to detail of the country's needs. That kind of attention is done when we go to the countries and do the national trainings. So when you do the national trainings, we can even do into more deeper cases of the country-specific problems that we want to solve. Then the other type of training is we do on-the-job training, where once we do this structured training, which is usually a 1 week, 2 week, those structured trainings, but then on-the-job training gives them the opportunity to work more hands-on. So in the on-the-job training, what we do is we invite people from our partners, mainly 1 or 2 agencies at a time. 4 or 5 people, they come to our office, they stay with us, work together very closely with our colleagues, and then they learn by doing. And at that time, there is more professional exchanges, more deeper understanding of these skills, these tools and technologies. So this kind of training is, again, designed to have a more sustainable impact. So for as an institutional capacity building, we hope while we design these trainings, we hope that these people will be again taking charge of these GIS related activities, observation analysis once they go back to their respective agencies. Then for younger individuals as well as for the research, we also do the internships where we tie up with universities and other partners, and then we provide some internships based on the research interest. And this also helps to create more interest among the younger scientists to pursue their further studies in this area. Then we also do sometimes refresher courses. For example, when you do the training for the first time for the very new group, for example, we had a training for the school teachers. Our idea was like when you train only the government people, sometimes we may not reach at the community level. So we also designed a course for the school teachers with the idea that once they go back, they'll also start training, giving this information and awareness to the students, which can really help us to take it to the roots. Since the school teachers were very new to this technology, to this field, it was important for us to provide them refresher courses after a year so that they are up to date as well as they don't forget what they learned. So for these very new people who are exposed recently to these technologies, the refresher courses are also quite important. And overall, while we implement, we also see that partnership with national and international agencies are very important. Normally, when you go to a countries for national trainings, we also partner with 1 or 2 national agencies and do these trainings together, like a co-hosting. This also provides us kind of ownership by those national agencies while they do these trainings. And also partnership with international agencies are important because that also brings us added value in terms of advanced knowledge, in terms of resources and so on. So this kind of modality is quite important, and we have seen this is quite successful. And one example is now with AirCast, we have been collaborating quite regularly. Similarly with other agencies like through Survey, we also have linkage with applied science team projects at the different universities in the US. And then we do the training with some resource persons from their side. So which will have added advantage not only to the participants, but also to see more to us so that our own confidence is also built. That way, I think this international expertise as resource persons is also very important when we impart these kind of trainings. Next slide, please. So finally, as I said, monitoring of capacity building activities are also quite important so that we can continuously improve upon our design of the materials, also to see that the targeted audience are reached out. And we normally do the pre and post assessments. For each training, we do the pre-assessment, the status, the stage of the participants in terms of technical skills and know-how. Then after the training, we do also the post-training assessment. This gives a very quick feedback on how the training has performed during these courses. But again, we also do the refresher courses, the tracer surveys, which we normally conduct after 2 years or 3 years time, reaching back to our participants and try to identify how much knowledge that they have gained is being used in their day-to-day life or in their day-to-day work. So this sort of surveys also tries to give us a learning on like which parts of our training are really helpful, which modules are helpful and which modules were not so helpful, so that we can continuously improve upon that. So this example is merely from one of our training course. We took an example from SAR for mapping of forest degradation and deforestation, where we had one of those 39 different capacity building activities, and we see the results are quite good in some cases, but in some areas there needed improvement. And also this helps us in terms of gender disaggregation, because gender is also quite important aspect in capacity building these days. And also try to see the level of the skills that were gained through this training. So these kind of feedback mechanism and the monitoring activities are really important to have a more continuous and sustainable design of the courses. Next slide, please. So during the pandemic, as you all know, because of the COVID, we had to modify our work. All of us were working from home for almost 10 months. But even during this pandemic, we tried to roll out some of our training programs. One is the virtual training was on empowering women in GIT. So this we did the training for Pakistan and Nepal, mainly targeting only the women participants. And for virtual training, our experience was that the previous hands-on courses, we may have to adopt or modify so that we can impart that during the virtual training courses. And virtual training courses also created its own challenges because there is no face-to-face interaction with the participants and among the participants. One very good example is that we created a WhatsApp group of all the participants. And then while we were organizing the trainings, the participants were also chatting with through WhatsApp, so that there's also some communication between the participants as well. And also it was quite important to have at least more rigorous communication, and this requires more efforts than when you do face-to-face training. There were both good sides and bad sides of this virtual training. The good part is the training was accessible to more participants. Earlier, the resources used to be one of the constraints when we wanted to bring more participants for training, because travel costs, logistical costs were quite challenging in some cases. Whereas through the virtual training, anybody could join the training. But again, the selection of participants were dependent on other factors, like whether they had access to internet. And physical location mattered less, but again, access to internet and access to the computers, access to these devices were more important. But again, another challenge was again different time zones, because we were doing this earlier when you do the training, we used to travel there physically, so there was no issue of time zones. But now with virtual trainings, we have participants from all different parts of the region. And also we are all sitting in Kathmandu or at different places to organize, to give the training as resource persons. Managing time zones and also the duration of the courses was quite challenging. For example, when you do the physical training, the whole day is dedicated. They start at 9 in the morning and can go up to 5, 6, and it's a lot of interactions there. But what we have realized is when you do online trainings, online meetings, people get fatigued after 2 hours or 3 hours. So we cannot really have very long training sessions in virtual trainings. So these are some of the limitations we found with the virtual trainings and also coping with the pandemic. Next slide, please. So to conclude, what we feel is that capacity building is very important, but again, to have more sustained impacts, we need to have a very structured approach so that we are not forgetting the real needs in the ground. And also the design that we come up with are able to address those needs, those gaps. The trainings like on-the-job training and training of trainers. I forgot to mention about our university training. In many cases, we also train our university faculties on the new technologies and the new developments in this, for example, in cloud computing or in machine learning, so that when we train the faculties, then they can take it to the universities and ultimately can have more multiplier effect in terms of capacity building. We also see that learning visits of professionals brought together and provided environment for learning, and they can even share knowledge among themselves and others. So it is not only training is not one way, but again, it becomes 2 ways. Whereas when you do these kind of trainings virtually, this 2-way communication or multiple way communication is quite limited. And as we all know that the next point is on gender, where we try to encourage more and more women participants and also have more women professionals in this field. And that has been one of the continuous effort from our side. Therefore, what we also realized is that we need to have more focused approaches in terms of selection of participants. And also while we do the promotional activities, we also need to focus on these aspects as well. And we have also seen that during the COVID, mostly we were doing the virtual trainings, and slowly as we are opening up, we also now started to do the hybrid model of training where the participants can gather in one place and then the resource persons are taking the training virtually. For example, in Afghanistan, when we did these workshops and trainings, since Afghanistan was opened early than us, then we could bring them in one place in the country, whereas our resource persons were from different parts and we could impart the training. So this has also given us a new lessons, new learning in terms of how we can be more effective and efficient in designing our training courses. We hope that in the coming days, again, we'll be also utilizing the lessons learned during COVID and also try to see many of those activities that we used to do physically might be done more in better way when we can do virtually. For example, if it is very short courses, sometimes the virtual modality might be even more efficient because you don't have to spend time in terms of travel and so on. So with this, I would like to conclude by saying that capacity building is always a continuous effort because we know that this field is always emerging. The new techniques, new methods, new data are always emerging with all these new satellites being launched every year and so many different countries. So there are more and more resources that are of access to us. But again, to really utilize those resources, capacity building definitely needs to be on track and also keep in tandem with all these technological advancements. Thank you. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation here.
Okay. Thank you, Birender. I think assessment, design, implementation, and monitoring are key elements for capacity building to keep the activity energetic and influential. So capacity development needs more structured design, contents, and material. And Birender gave us informatic talk on that. Thank you again. Our next session speaker is Professor Xinfa Gu. He's the Deputy Director of Areas Post Information Research Institute of CAS, and also the co-lead of AOGEO. Unfortunately, Xinfa cannot attend this session with us at this time for urgent affairs. But he sent the pre-recorded video. I think he will show the progress of AOGEO capacity building activity, especially evolution on the virtual training and hybrid approach during the COVID-19. Okay, please the video for us.
Dear AOGEO colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. I'm Xinfa Gu, one of the co-chairs of AOGEO. I'm really pleased to join this special session and give my presentation. The title is To Build the Network for Capacity Development and Regional Knowledge Hub. My presentation includes 3 parts. First, I will recall the objectives of AOGEO when this regional cooperation framework initiated and activities and the framework of AOGEO. Then I will focus on AOGEO training workshops, training and capacity building programs. Last, in the end, I will talk about AOGEO Knowledge Hub. AOGEO, derived from AOGEOS, is a regional geo which envisions a future where decisions and actions for the benefit of humankind are informed by coordinated, comprehensive, and sustained Earth observations. AOGEO advocates openness and cooperation, encourage more responsibility and contributions from countries with ability. Meanwhile, AOGEO hope more countries will be involved, even if they are not GEO participants. This slide shows the positioning and objectives of capacity development. Different capacity development tools and programs will be combined to reflect the relevant emphasis and coverage for each target group and combined with integrated priority studies in AO region. We hope AOGEO training will emphasize on sustainability and the lead to customize technologies to suit local conditions. Regarding to the organization, the AOGEO training includes long-term and short-term training. China financially supported AOGEO workshop and training workshop annually. Besides, AOGEO will hold ad hoc meetings, users workshops, and training course depending on period focus. In my opinion, the pre-epidemic training belongs to the traditional training in-person workshop. We have heard AOGEO workshop and training in China, Nepal, Laos, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. More than 90 young scholars from 14 countries in the AO region were financially supported. The first training was held together with the first AOGEO workshop. The Dutch action plan was passed during the conference to carry out remote sensor observation in regions along the Mekong River, and the training is focusing on Earth observation data processing cooperation. The next AOGEO workshop was held in Nepal in 2018. It was jointly organized by AirCAS and ISMOD. Thanks for the support of the ISMOD. The workshop promoted the understanding of remote sensing data processing and its application in regional agriculture and disaster monitoring. We also successfully held the workshop on Earth observation data in Laos in 2018. Thanks for the Faculty of the Engineering of NUL. The workshop focused on Earth observation data for urban planning, agriculture, and disaster monitoring in Mekong Basin, with the objective to promote the development of GEOs in AO region. In 2019, AOGEO International Training Course on Agriculture, Marine, and Ecological Environment Earth Observation Data in Sri Lanka was successfully held in Colombo, the capital of Sri Lanka. More than 30 trainers from more than 10 government departments participated in it. We also want to extend my thanks to the local organizer, Simita. In 2020, affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, the workshop was changed to be held as online training. This is also the first time for training to be held in the combination of online and on-site. I call this the second stage of the nearly development training. Fortunately, we have had good results. After the outbreak, nearly all the international travel stopped. How to successfully organize a training workshop? We face a variety of the challenges and problems. In order to achieve better training effects, finally decided to change the model to have it online and on-site synchronously. Both the content of the preparations and the organizational model has changed. We have a more rigorous preparation before the training workshop. Make the plan of the epidemic prevention and control, design the scope and the process of trainers requirement, organize the trainers team, design of training courses system, and prepare other technical service. Meanwhile, training implementations is more standardized. Applications of the professional management software was put into its preparation, including the trainer's registration and management system and the best cloud training platform. And the effect evaluation is more comprehensive after training. We started online evaluation of the training effect, coupled with publishing and sharing the training cases. In summary, before COVID-19, the traditional training have better on-site experience for the trainers and a high efficiency of problem solving. But after COVID-19, the many restrictions become to online conference tools, local epidemic preventions, policies, and measures, and affected by time difference for reportedly contacting, as well as local network conditions, power supply, especially for developing countries. But the good thing is that there are more people who can participate in the online. Problems are easy to encounter in online meeting, especially affected by the local network, power supply, and time difference, and the large number of the online students affect the facility to ask and answer the questions. And China will still hold the workshop and training in 2021. Here are some experience and suggestions I would like to share with you who are preparing the online training. That is to divide the trainers into groups by research topics in different regions in main venue and sub-venue, to collect and organize conference materials, and to share these resources through online training platform by conducting standardized release management to accumulate training resources, to receive trainings information regularly through online training platform and synchronize to cooperating sites, to organize the trainer's certificate library through online training platform. In the future, capacity development is seen as a critical lead of AOGO. Member countries and peers of AO are highly engaged and committed to contributions. IPS are implemented as a pilot project by promoting capacity development. At the same time, since it is becoming more and more rely more on the development of internet technology, I tend to suggest the training will combine with the construction of AOGO Knowledge Hub in order to create more extensive and convenient knowledge sharing and training cloud service. The effort of future AOGO online training workshops should be aimed at broadening engagement combined with internet development and the knowledge hub. I prefer to call it as the future expected training. We hope that each trainer and member state can fully engage in and benefit from a training workshop. At last, I want to give a short brief introduction of AOGO Knowledge Hub design and user interface. Its construction will begin with identifying the purple knowledge package for specific application requirement. That means identifying the purple knowledge package by measuring the product ability of qualified remote sensor data products. And the CACH will designed to be a platform of the collection, mediation, and ingestion of the good application practice. This is the prototype of AOGO Knowledge Hub. To open the integrated priority test area IPS, Knowledge Hub lead to build Earth observation application workflow for evaluating reuse performance step by step. This is a demonstration of the user interface. Unfortunately, it is in Chinese, but I can show the main scope of this package. The knowledge search functions of Earth observation application based on natural language and the association of the dynamic update of knowledge package are preliminarily realized. And click the knowledge element entity to add the table to view the metadata information of the knowledge element. If you click the knowledge element entity in the knowledge map in the screenshot, you can view the detailed information and associated data. That's what we can do so far. If anyone wants to be involved in this work in the future, we are more than welcome. Finally, I would like to renew that AOGO is a public platform for Earth Observation Society in Asia Oceania region and plays a key role in application and the development of remote sensing in Asia and Oceania. We welcome more cooperation and participations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks to Xinfa as well. I think very impressive design about AOGO Knowledge Hub and also detailed information about AOGO capacity building activity conducted in the past year. So I think I will say thanks to all three speakers this afternoon. Then we will move to the panel discussion section. I would like to pass the chairing to Professor Kawasaki.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhu, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So now, we'd like to start the panel discussion, even though the time is very limited. So, we'd like to discuss, based on the presentation by experts, we'd like to discuss some important points for capacity development and data and knowledge sharing. So from the presentations by two presenters today, we learned a lot. But one of the important point I learned is the importance of like facilitators for like designing and like operating the capacity development course for producing a maximum effort of the training or workshop. So I'd like to ask the two experts about how do we develop such human resources? I think it's a big challenges. So do we need any special consideration to cultivate such human resources during and beyond the COVID-19 era? So can Professor Koike, first, can I ask Professor Koike about the idea?
Okay. We have been working in the field. So I would introduce one example in Africa. Can I? As I mentioned, the on-site stakeholder, it is very big challenge for them to acquire information of their non-professional subject. And then it is very difficult for them to make a decision and take action to resolve the on-site issue. Issue exists on-site. So for that purpose, we need to identify the problem clearly as a gap between what it should be and what it is actually. And we need to analyze the problem thoroughly by investigating its causes. And then the on-site stakeholder are encouraged to take action and conduct a planning, action, evaluation or resolution by themselves. For that purpose, I think it's a key. Key is respecting the on-site stakeholder initiative, their experiences and expertise. Then they are encouraged to express their own various ideas and opinions. And then to make a productive process through the dialogue or for effective and useful resolution. So this is a key for the facilitator, the function of the capacity building for facilitator, training of trainers. So I think it can be developed by a kind of the workshop. So under this consideration, we make a design of the two set of the workshop. One is the training of expert, which under this COVID-19 in West Africa, so which consists of the 3 introductory lectures and 3 tutorials, including how to use the DS. So this is the expert training for 1 week. They implemented this one 4 times, and 262 experts graduated. Based on that, the knowledge building, we also develop the training of trainers, TOT. In this session, we clarify roles and the function of the facilitator and how to manage the workshop. So this kind of the pre-recorded PowerPoint, and also these countries in French. So they are not the mother tongue, but the official tongue is language is French. So we made this kind of education material and a very detailed question and answer session by internet we did. So and the 31 leaders are now graduated this course. So this kind of two-step of the education program is very effective. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Koike, for sharing your very clear idea with concrete experience. Yeah, it's very useful. Thank you very much. So how about Mr. Balachaya? What's your idea? Or do you have any comments?
Thank you. I very much agree with Professor Koike. The training of trainers is also one of the modalities that we are adopting for creating this sort of critical mass so that we can build the capacity in a more effective way. Another part we see, especially under survey, is that self-capacity building. So you cannot train others unless you are yourself capable. So we do a lot of programs to bring subject matter experts from other universities or other agencies who are at the forefront in this technology. And we train our staff first. And then our staff, once they're confident, then they design the courses for our partners. Sometimes we do this kind of training together with our staff as well as for others, or key partners who are also working on the co-development. So building our own capacity is always key. And another important part is, since I said in my presentation also that this is very fast evolving technology. While we do the capacity building of more traditional thematic capacity building on one hand, at the same time, we also need to keep on looking into the developments that are taking place and try to build networks with all those different agencies and make sure that relevant technologies are also being brought, contextualized in our own region for solving the different needs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's also very clear and very useful idea. Thank you very much for sharing that. So yeah, I'd like to ask you a next question. So we found that the need of the continuous support and further encouragement on the ongoing effort for sharing data and knowledge, particularly for Earth observation data. So during and beyond the COVID-19 era, what effort do we need as the AOGEO community? So the first question, you shared your experience or your comment as an organization, but as a AOGEO community, what should we do? Do you have any idea or comments? So can I ask Professor Koike again?
Okay. In this AOGEO plenary, I learned so many things. I introduced our AWCA session report. Report in the first session today. This is the country report from Philippines. This is a country report from Sri Lanka. This kind of exchange their experiences, idea, and knowledge in a region. It's very, very powerful. I myself, I learned so many things through the discussion with them. This is one point. So AOGEO organize this kind of opportunity and encourage the exchange their idea and experiences. So because our region is very, very diverse, so various experiences based on the various conditions. So that's why I think this kind of opportunity is very nice. In addition, as I mentioned, my colleague of the Asian Development Bank Institute organized this policy dialogue. So this is what I say, including the data, the human capacity, governance, and finance. So this comprehensive policy strategy is very useful for each country. So I think this policy brief or policy based on the policy dialogue should be encouraged. Lastly, we are very happy. So two high-level persons gave a message to us. The Minister of the Public Works and Housing, Indonesia, and Undersecretary of the Department of the Science and Technology, Republic of the Philippines. So this is the high-level person's message. That means we can cooperate with various organizations and agencies of each country. So by involving this high-level person is also very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So how about Mr. Balajalapa?
Yeah. Thank you. So what I see is like policy definitely is very important, and also some institutional mechanism. If we can come up with some institutional mechanism agreements between different governments to share data, that becomes a very enabling environment. For example, the Nepal government and Chinese government have an agreement where Chinese government is providing all the data resources, images to our Nepalese government to be used in different agencies. So this has facilitated a lot of these, promoting a lot of these remote sensing applications in the Nepal government ministries and departments. So this sort of mechanism, if AOGEO can facilitate, we also discussed about earlier this IPS that how to facilitate data sharing and availability of data to different groups. So this sort of efforts will definitely help the AOGEO community in terms of providing access to data for those who want to do some, initiate some project activities. And based on this access to data, definitely will also, then we'll move on to the development of methodologies, and ultimately that will build the capacity, overall capacity. So sometimes even when you do the training, but since they don't have access to proper data, those skills are not properly utilized. So we also need to see that how this access to data, access to knowledge can go hand in hand. And also the knowledge hub or knowledge portal that Professor Go has mentioned, that will also be a very important step to facilitate that these resources are accessible. Training materials, data resources can be accessible or made accessible through a portal or through this knowledge hub, which can ultimately play a catalytic role in terms of building capacity in this region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, actually we plan to get comments from the floor, but now it's time for closing the session. So yeah, but yeah, so now it's time for closings. But yeah, at the end, yeah, let me briefly summarize the overall session. So let me give a few minutes. So let me share one slide. So here is my summary of the special session 2. So yeah, thanks to the great presentation by the experts, we saw that the new types of very interesting capacity development programs are emerging in many places in our region. and the capacity development becomes more important and essential. And now, as you can easily imagine, we can provide this kind of capacity development online to a large number of people in various ways. So Professor Silva says now we are in a second stage of capacity development. And in this period, timing, as discussed in the panel discussion, we have to train a trainer in a very short period of time. So capacity development of the trainer and capacity, improving the capacity development become one of important issue for us. So now various programs are developed, but the more strategic and systematic design of the capacity development, including the monitoring the effectiveness of the program, are essential. So we have to think about to be more structured and more standardized way for better capacity development. And in order to promote that, the common platform or a knowledge hub for collecting, archiving, and sharing data and knowledge for capacity development is important. And considering the current risks, not only the pandemic, climate change, and disaster resilience and sustainable development, so in order to achieve this kind of very complex issues, so we have to establish the interlinkage among these problems. So the synthesis system called a concept of co-resilience become more and more important. So, and the coordinated actions should be promoted by data integration and sharing. And importance of facilitators are raised by many experts. The facilitator means that not just a master of ceremony, the person the person should be like a catalytic beings. So for facility, effective capacity building and broad sharing of the data and knowledge, we have to develop this kind of human resources. So new type of facilitators for addressing very complex urgent problem is essential for us. And as discussed in a panel discussion, in our Asia Oceania region, it's very diverse. Very diverse, and now many activities are ongoing. So sharing good practice, lessons learned, and challenges among wide range of stakeholders are really important, and it's the best way for achieving our goal. So we really found the need of the continuous and further support for capacity development by AOGEO community. So not only like a support, but also it's a very good opportunity for us, suggested by Professor Koike. In our session today, I think many of us learned a lot from the experience from other countries, and we are all stimulated. So we have to utilize this kind of opportunity for developing better, continue and design a better capacity development in our region. So that's all my summary. So I'm very sorry that we passed about 6 minutes, but I believe that thanks for the great contributions for the great experts. So yeah, we are able to have a very fruitful discussion. So I'd like to show big appreciation to the experts and also the audience. So I'm very sorry that we couldn't get a comment from the floor, but by continuing our activity, I think we should have more opportunity for exchanging our knowledge and our idea. So thank you very much for your great contribution. So yeah, we'd like to close the session today. Thank you very much for all the participants. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Zhou Shang and Dr. Kawasaki. Thank you to all the participants for joining. Sorry for the very limited time. We definitely need more time for discussion. But anyway, this is all we have for second day of AOGEO Symposium. Tomorrow will be the last day, and we will have special session 3 about Pacific Island countries and territories and summary session. I have 3 important notes here. Tomorrow, the symposium will start on 1 p.m. in Japan time, which means 2 hours earlier than today. So please make sure the start time in your time zone and join. Second, we will adopt a statement at the summary session tomorrow. The draft statement will be available on the symposium website for your review before the symposium starts. So please check the website before you joining the symposium. Lastly, as I mentioned yesterday, we are creating a group photo, mosaicing your photos. Probably you have already received email from my colleagues asking for a photo of you. We received many nice photos, very nice photos already, but not enough. So as we want to collect photos of all participants, I kindly ask to send us a photo of you by email if you haven't sent yet. So this is all we have. Before we close, please unmute your microphone and give a big applause for chairs and presenters today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation. See you again tomorrow.